Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. In the beginning, before the clock knew time, there was a whisper that circled everything. Light. Not loud, not fast, but steady like a breath the universe forgot it was taking. Light does not scream when it arrives. It doesn't knock. It settles. And around this quiet visitor, planets began to turn. Earth was one of them. Wrapped in blues and greens, cloaked in cloud and pulled gently by the gravity of the sun's unspoken warmth. Each morning the light comes, not like a flame, but like a memory returning. You see it drift over rooftops, spill across oceans, sneak into forests as if asking permission to touch the moss again. But what many forget is that this same light never truly leaves. Even at night, when the world rolls away into its own shadow, the light is still there, just behind the curve, still reaching, still moving. We often think of shadows as the absence of something, but they are not empty. Shadows are proof. They are the footprints of light being blocked. They are the outlines of everything standing quietly in its way. And in the night, when sunlight no longer strikes your face, it is still marking the far side of your home. It is still busy tracing mountaintops on the other side of the globe. Your night is someone else's sunrise. Your darkness is just light turned away. Now imagine this. You are standing in a field long after dusk. The stars begin to poke through the velvet above. Crickets sing low and steady, as if bowing to the silence. There is no sun in sight, but you close your eyes and you can still feel where it was. Your skin remembers warmth. Your eyes remember gold. This memory of sunlight becomes your compass. Even in total darkness, you can point to where the sun must be. That invisible presence, that direction, is what every plant and bird and seedling knows instinctively. The sun has left the sky, but not the story. Astronomers call it the solar path, the gentle arc the sun draws across the sky from east to west each day. But this path continues into the night, curling beneath our feet, looping through darkness, always in orbit. The Earth, in its elegant spin, is simply turning you away from the light, not into blackness, but into your own quiet shadow. We are always moving through a braid of light and dark, like dancers changing partners. The sun never sets, it is we who turn, and this is why the stars twinkle only at night. Not because they suddenly appear, but because our side of the earth has ducked under the curtain of daylight. The moment our gaze is no longer flooded with nearby fire, the distant lanterns of the cosmos come forward, like stage lights when the house lights go down. But even here, in what we call darkness, we are never far from light. There is moonlight, borrowed sunlight. There are satellites gleaming with stored reflections. There are clouds glowing with the ghost of day. If you could rise above the planet, you would see it clearly. A blue marble lit halfway, the other half wrapped in soft shadow. Not harsh, not empty, just turned gently away. From the window of a satellite, Earth looks like a thought caught between day and dream. That boundary line where sunlight fades and night begins is called the terminator. Not violent, not final, just the edge of brightness always in motion. Children sometimes are, where does the sun go at night? And the truest answer is, nowhere. It waits, it continues, it beams without asking for applause. We are the ones who journey into our own dimness. And even then, the light follows us in echoes, in glowing leaves, in starlit skin, in the hush that falls over a city asleep. There are animals who know how to track this light, even in its absence. Moths navigate by the moon, the same moon lit by the sun. Sea turtles, born in the sand, race toward brightness on the horizon, not because they see the sun, but because they feel where it should be. Migrating birds tilt their wings against winds by reading the stars. The moon, the magnetic lines beneath their feathers, all of it guided, directly or not, by that same central flame we turn from each dusk. And there is more. Deep in polar regions, there are nights that last weeks and days that stretch for months. Here, shadows grow like trees, slow and long and cold. Yet even in these places, the sun is tracked. Inuit hunters watch for subtle orange lines on the horizon. Reindeer adjust their cycles not by heat, but by the angle of sky glow. Plants hold tight to rhythms carved not by temperature, but by light. Even the darkness learns its shape from the sun. We live on a planet wrapped in sunlight's rhythm, turning, tilting, shifting, breathing in day and exhaling into night. Light doesn't stop when we stop seeing it. It continues writing on the backs of leaves, carving its arc across the moon's face, bouncing from cloud to cloud in ways too soft for us to notice. But it is there, always. So the next time night falls and you find yourself walking under stars or watching shadows stretch inside your room, remember this. You are not outside the light. You are moving through its quieter chapter. You are not in darkness. You are in the story of it. Let's drift deeper into this orbit of quiet radiance. If you were to draw the path of sunlight across our planet, not with a pen but with a thread of warmth, it would coil endlessly, tracing the spine of mountain tops at dawn, brushing rooftops by the noon, then slipping into windows as evening leans in. But that thread does not break once night falls. It simply continues its braid, spinning around Earth in a luminous spiral, always one step ahead of us, always wrapping the world in gentle turns. Every living thing on Earth, whether it sleeps at night or blooms in the moonlight, carries within it a memory of this spiral. In humans, that memory is called circadian rhythm. It is not just a clock. It is a soft tide rising and falling beneath your skin, pulling you toward wakefulness, then into dreams, in harmony with the turning of the earth. It is sunlight translated into feeling. A flower knows when to open, a child knows when to yawn. Even deep beneath the ocean where sunlight never touches the waves, creatures follow rhythms born of its distant pull. Imagine the sun as a lighthouse, constant, patient, never needing to shout. Even when we drift from its beam, the memory remains. This is how scientists discovered that people placed in complete darkness for many days still wake and sleep with a rhythm close to the cycle of the sun. There is something ancient and quiet inside us that still turns toward the light, even in its absence. We do not just live in daylight, we carry it. And what of the moon, the sun's quiet twin? At night, it is the moon that holds the torch, not with its own fire, but by borrowing. The moon is a mirror, and its light, however faint, is the memory of day still echoing through the sky. Moonlight is sunlight softened by distance. This borrowed brightness has inspired poets, drawn wolves into song, guided travellers across deserts, and pulled tides across the belly of the sea. It is not night's rejection of day, but its reflection. In ancient times, people watched the moon and stars to understand where they were, not just on land, but in life. The position of Orion might tell a sailor how to return home. The angle of the moon's crescent could warn a farmer when to plant seeds. Even today, satellites still use the stars to adjust their position. In the hush of the universe, sunlight and its shadows have always offered direction. You could lose everything, but if you could find the moon, you could still find your way. The earth too keeps memory. In the stones, in the ice, in the rings of trees, the story of sunlight is written. Consider a glacier, carved over centuries, holding within its layers the glow of summers long gone. Or the bark of a redwood tree whose grooves reveal years of sunlight, drought and bloom. Sunlight leaves fingerprints, not loud, not sharp, but present, like the scent of someone who once passed by. And yet, while we often chase the sun, to feel its warmth, to see more clearly, to grow, there is something to be learned in its leaving. In twilight, when light no longer insists on being seen, the world becomes quieter. Shadows lengthen, colours soften, sounds become rounder, slower. It is in these moments that we begin to feel the planet's turning, not with our eyes, but with something deeper, a pull in the chest, a loosening of thought, a readiness to rest. The retreat of sunlight is not loss. It is permission. There are cultures that hold sunset as sacred, not because it ends the day, but because it reveals the turn. In Japan, it is common to bow toward the west as the sun dips below the horizon, not to worship but to thank. In the Andes, farmers once lit fires to honour Inti, the sun god, trusting that the flames would remind the sun to return. In the deserts of Africa, entire songs are sung to the setting sun, each note a promise that day will find its way back. Science too watches this farewell. Instruments perched on mountain peaks measure the angle of the sun as it sinks. Satellites orbiting above track how the light bends through the atmosphere, how it scatters into pinks and oranges. This is called Rayleigh's scattering, a name that sounds sharp but describes something soft, the way blue light gets scattered in all directions, leaving only the longer, warmer colours to paint the sky at dusk. Even in departure, sunlight leaves art behind, and in this art there is a message. Light does not disappear. It diffuses. It transforms. It takes on new shapes. In a prism, sunlight becomes a rainbow. In the air, it becomes warmth. In the body, it becomes vitamin D, becomes energy, becomes life. At night, it becomes a dream, a recollection of brightness that drifts through your sleep. Consider now the invisible, the wavelengths of sunlight that our eyes cannot see, ultraviolet and an infrared, pulsing just beyond the edge of perception. These hidden lights are still with us, even in darkness. Bees can see ultraviolet markings on flowers long after sunset. Snakes sense heat, a form of infrared glowing from a mouse in the grass. There is light beyond vision, and it moves through night as surely as it moves through noon. We live in a world sculpted by what light touches and by what it leaves in shadow. Both are essential. A fern curls not only toward the sun, but also into shade. Our homes are designed with windows to welcome light and curtains to hold it back. Sleep needs both. The hush of dark, the promise of dawn. Even the earth's seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, are nothing more than the angle of light stretched across time. So the next time you find yourself wondering where the sun has gone, try closing your eyes. Breathe in. You might feel it in the warmth lingering on the sidewalk, in the shimmer of a leaf, in the hush between birdsong. The sun is not missing, it is moving. It is rounding the earth like a lullaby, touching someone else's morning while you drift into sleep. The light, like a faithful friend, is always circling back. Now let us rest in the quietest part of the orbit, where day has long slipped beneath the curve, where stars blink in silence, and where the earth continues its gentle turning without asking anything in return. This is where shadows stretch longest, where the hush becomes a rhythm, and where the story of sunlight takes its final shape for the night, not as brilliance but as presence. All through the night, even as cities dim and forests still, the light continues its patient arc. We cannot see it, yet it sculpts the dark. It curves over oceans, warming waves unseen. It brushes over deserts where nocturnal life awakens, guided not by brightness, but by memory, by rhythm, by the faintest glimmer. The owl does not hunt by light, but it moves with knowledge born from the pattern light once cast. The cactus does not bloom at midnight by accident. It listens to cues buried in time, in temperature, in the whisper of when light will return. We forget that light lives inside of us too. Our bones carry calcium shaped by sunlight. Our blood ferries nutrients awakened by its touch. Even the brain releases its dreams in response to its departure, melatonin flowing like a soft tide when night begins. Sleep is not the opposite of light. It is what light gives us when it leaves. It is the gift of restoration, of the body folding into itself, gathering warmth from within. If you have ever felt the peace of sitting by a window with the blinds drawn, you know this. Light does not need to flood a room to be present. A sliver is enough. A faint glow through curtains, a shimmer across a tabletop. In such stillness, you begin to notice what cannot be seen in full sun, the way shadows dance on walls, how dust lifts gently in beams, how silence grows deeper in dimness. This is where the story becomes most tender, not when light arrives, but when it lingers. Think of the travellers who navigated by starlight, how they trusted the stars not to shine the way, but to remind them that the path still existed. Or the lighthouses, whose slow revolutions kept ships safe not through constant blaze, but by the rhythm of their pulses. Light has never needed to be loud. It has only ever needed to be known. Even modern science depends on this rhythm. Telescopes peering into the farthest galaxies do so in utter darkness, collecting faint photons that began their journey millions of years ago. These specks of light, too soft for the naked eye, are cradled by mirrors and measured by sensors. They whisper tales of stars long gone, of cosmic dances invisible to our days. It is not brightness that reveals the universe. It is the patient gathering of what glows quietly. Now imagine you are lying in bed. The world has gone still. Through the window a pale moon hangs. Somewhere beyond clouds and continents the sun is rising, not here, not yet, but soon. And even now your body knows. Your breath slows, your muscles soften, your heart beats to the rhythm of the light that is coming. Sleep becomes a ceremony, and within that stillness the orbit continues. You might think of the Earth as spinning away from the sun each night, but there is another way to see it. We are turning into a new direction, making space for the stars, offering the moon a moment to speak. The sky is not empty, it is filled with what comes next. Darkness is not a wall, but a bridge, and in that bridge we rest. In that pause life renews itself. Children fall asleep with lullabies, but the planet has its own. The slow turning of its body, the hush of winds across hills, the low hum of crickets, the tender ache of a shadow stretching across a bedroom floor. These are not signs of loss, they are reminders of balance. For just as the earth welcomes day, it also honours night. And in the morning the light will return, not suddenly but softly. It will press gently against mountain tops, slip through treetops, scatter across dew-soaked grass. And though it has never truly left, it will feel like a reunion. You may open your eyes to a sky blushing with pale gold and feel without words that something has arrived. Something steady, something true. So as you drift now into your own quiet shadow, wrapped in blankets or thought or silence, remember that the sun is still in motion. It is looping behind your dreams, writing light onto someone else's dawn. You are part of its orbit, even now, not apart from it, within it. Let your breath slow, let your thoughts dim. The day has not ended, it has only curled into its gentler shape. The light is still here, even in darkness. It is always circling, always waiting, always turning gently back to you. High above the trees and the rooftops, where clouds drift like forgotten lullabies, there is a traveller that carries light without a flame. The moon, pale, silent, distant, glides across the sky not with its own fire, but with a quiet reflection of something older, something brighter. It does not shine, it remembers. The moon wears the sun's memory like a shawl of borrowed gold, turning gently to show pieces of what was once daylight scattered now across the fabric of night. We often look at the moon and think it glows, but its light is not its own. It is the sun's light, cast outward across space, bouncing off the moon's dust-covered face and bending softly toward us. A single beam may travel over 90 million miles, strike the moon's surface and scatter toward your eye as you walk home beneath a dim street lamp. This light, old, weathered, delayed, is sunlight returned in another form, a memory travelling backward. The moon does not have to shine to be known. It is recognised by how it holds the sun's gift and reshapes it for us. When it is full, it looks like a pearl set gently in the dark. When it is new, we sense its absence, a hush in the sky, a space held open for silence. Every phase in between is a quiet reminder that the moon is always present, always turning, always reflecting something larger than itself. The moon's light is a promise that day was here and will be again, but the moon does more than reflect. It affects, the oceans feel it. Tides rise and fall in harmony with the moon's slow pull, drawn not only by its gravity, but by its relationship with the sun. When the moon aligns with sunlight in new or full phases, the pull deepens, and the sea lifts higher, as if trying to meet the sky. This dance of water and light, of moon and memory, happens every day without applause. Quiet, exact, eternal, and in that pull life responds. Coral reefs time their spawning with full moons. Crabs scuttle across sand at midnight guided by lunar glow. Even humans tucked beneath blankets are quietly shaped by the moon's cycle. Sleep shifts, dreams deepen. Some wake in the middle of the night, drawn by something unnamed, only to glance outside and find the sky washed in silver. It is the light we thought had left us, returning in a softer tone. Ancient people did not need telescopes to know this. They watched the moon rise at the same time each evening, shifting forward by about 50 minutes each day. They marked its fullness and darkness, its crescents and quarters, and built calendars by its rhythm. These were not guesses. They were observations made over lifetimes. To them, the moon was a timekeeper, a guide, a reflection of their own patterns, planting, harvesting, resting, watching. In some languages, the word for month comes from the word for moon. The lunar cycle, roughly 29.5 days, gave shape to human time before clocks ever ticked. Rituals rose around its phases. New moons meant beginnings. Full moons brought celebrations. Eclipses brought awe. People told stories not just about the moon's presence, but its power, how it watched, how it pulled, how it knew. But the science of the moon is as tender as the stories. Its surface is covered in fine dust called regolith, the result of ancient impacts and meteor showers. This dust, though dry and silent, is incredibly reflective. When sunlight strikes it, the particles scatter the light in all directions. The moon's glow is not a single beam. It is a scattering of millions of tiny reflections, like whispers echoing in every direction. And still, the moon moves. Around the earth around the sun, a nested ballet. It rotates slowly, which is why we see only one face. The other side, often called the dark side, is not truly dark. It too is lit, just not when we are looking. The moon turns in such a way that one side always faces us, a silent guardian. Yet both sides share the same sunlight. Both sides remember. At times, the moon passes directly between us and the sun, casting a shadow on the earth. This is an eclipse, a moment when sunlight is blocked not by distance but by presence. Day dims, birds grow quiet, the temperature drops, and for a few minutes we are reminded of how vast the balance truly is, how a distant rock reflecting forgotten light can interrupt our brightest source. It is not fearsome, it is humbling, it is beautiful. Other times the earth itself stands between the sun and the moon takes on a copper hue. This is a lunar eclipse, a soft reminder that earth casts shadows too. The sun's light bends through our atmosphere, painting the moon in colours pulled from thousands of sunsets around the world. The result is not darkness, but transformation. The moon becomes a lantern filled with the breath of every evening. You can almost feel it, this connection, the way sunlight reaches us even when we think it has vanished, the way the moon carries pieces of it into night like a messenger crossing from one world into another. It is not fiction. It is physics made poetic. It is the way the universe moves, not with noise, but with pattern, with shape, with memory. So the next time you look up at the moon and find it resting there in the sky, half lit or full, rising early or late, remember that you are not seeing a light turned on. You are seeing a story returned, a story of a sun too bright to stare into, now softened and wrapped in dust, made gentle by distance and offered back to you as a quiet reflection. The moon does not shine, it remembers, and that memory is enough to light the night. Let us drift deeper into the memory the moon holds, not only of light, but of time, of tides, of cycles woven into every breath the earth takes. The moon's orbit is not perfect. It wobbles, it leans, it shifts ever so slightly, tracing an invisible ellipse that never truly repeats itself. And with each slow, deliberate turn, it carries with it echoes of centuries, not just of sunlight, but of how that light once touched the oceans, the trees, and the sleeping creatures below. Imagine standing by the sea during a full moon. The light gleams along the crests of waves, not blinding but pearlescent, a soft shimmer stretching across the dark water like a pathway you could almost walk on. That silver thread exists because moonlight, once sunlight, is scattered across the moving skin of the ocean. Every ripple catches a glimmer. Every swell becomes a quiet chorus in the moon's reflected song. This is how night becomes luminous, not through its own brightness, but through what it remembers. In the stillness of night, plants too respond to moonlight. Certain flowers bloom only under its gaze, moonflowers and night-blooming jasmine, their petals unfolding as the moon rises, offering their fragrance not to the day, but to the deep silence of night air. These blooms, though unseen by most, are visited by moths and bats, whose eyes and ears are attuned to a different kind of seeing. Their world glows in shades of memory, in spectrums of soft silver and dark blue. There are forests that shimmer under full moons, not because the trees shine, but because the dew and frost that gather on their leaves hold pieces of borrowed light. In those moments, walking through the woods feels like stepping through memory itself, a realm where time slows, and every branch, every stone seems to recall a day long past. Moonlight turns the ordinary into the sacred. The path you walked that morning becomes enchanted by night. This enchantment is more than feeling. It is a pattern carved into life. Many species, from tiny plankton to giant elephants, follow lunar rhythms. Grunion fish time their spawning precisely with the highest tides under the new moon. Their eggs rest on sand bathed in starlight, waiting for the next tide to lift them back into sea. Fireflies flash in synchronicity during certain moon phases, responding to subtle changes in night brightness. Even human birth rates have shown faint ripples that echo the moon's pulse, as if the light it holds might reach even into the rhythms of the womb. And still, above all this, the moon keeps turning. Locked in synchronous rotation, it shows us only one face, a surface pocked with craters, ancient seas of hardened lava, and highlands so old they hold the scars of the solar system's youth. These craters, each a silent record of impact, glisten differently under changing light. During some nights, their shadows stretch long and thin. On others, they shrink, revealing texture. The moon never changes, yet it always appears new, depending only on how sunlight touches it. Astronauts who stood upon its surface described the experience as surreal. Not because of silence, though it was silent. Not because of weightlessness, though it was light, but because of the light itself. Sunlight, unfiltered by an atmosphere, cast hard-edged shadows and blinding glows. And yet, Earth hovered in their sky, blue, alive, bright. From the moon, our world looked like a rising memory, a living contradiction, day floating in the middle of night. That view reminded them, and us, that Earth is always bathed in sunlight, even as one side sleeps. The moon circling patiently acts as a reminder of this continuity, as if to say, even when your part of the world grows dark, the light continues somewhere else, and it will return. This is how cultures across time came to see the moon as a bridge between worlds, between sun and night, between waking and dreaming, between what has passed and what will return. In ancient Mesopotamia, priests track the moon to mark seasons and predict eclipses. In China, the Mid-Autumn Festival celebrates the harvest moon, with stories of reunion and reflection. In indigenous North American traditions, each full moon bears a name: snow moon, flower moon, corn moon, honouring the changing face of the earth beneath its glow. Even language reflects this link between light and memory. Phrases like once in a blue moon remind us how rare and magical some moments are. We speak of moonlit paths, moonstruck hearts, moon phases of emotion, all metaphors for things we remember in pieces, things that glow faintly but deeply inside us. We don't see these meanings, we feel them, just like we feel the sun's warmth in the moon's gentle light. There's a tenderness to this borrowing, the way the moon accepts light it cannot create, and offers it back without demand. It does not try to outshine the sun, it waits, it reflects. It becomes beautiful not by what it is, but by what it carries. In that act, there is grace, there is humility, there is something to learn. Because we too carry light we did not create. We glow with memories of kindness. We reflect the warmth we've received. In our words, in our silence, in our small gestures, we pass along the light of others. We are not suns, we are moons, turning gently, reflecting softly, offering brightness in a darker world. And the moon, our oldest companion, continues its path around us, patient and unwavering. Through clouds, through seasons, through time itself. It never hurries, it never stops. It simply carries the light it's been given and gives it back in the quietest way. That, perhaps, is what makes it so enduring, so beloved. So the next time you look at the moon, whether it's a sliver in the sky or a glowing disk above the trees, pause. Let your breath match its stillness. Feel the weight of its patience. Know that it is not shining for you, it is shining for all, and from something older. The sun is far, the moon is close, but both carry the same story. And the night in its hush is where that story continues to unfold. Let us settle into the final curve of the moon's journey, where its light is softest, its presence most quiet, and its meaning most felt. The moon, long mistaken as just a mirror in the sky, holds more than borrowed sunlight. It holds our sense of time. It holds our quiet. It holds above all the slow language of change, not in bursts or brilliance, but in phases, in shifts, in the gentle unfolding of what is always becoming. There is no single face to the moon, yet the one we see feels familiar, like an old friend who never speaks first but always listens. It watches our nights without judgment, offering its light in different shapes, sometimes full, sometimes nearly gone, and even in darkness it does not disappear. The new moon still circles, still pulls tides, still marks the hours, even when invisible. The moon teaches us how to remain, even when unseen, how to hold presence through sense, how to reflect light without needing to possess it. Long ago, before clocks and calendars and electric lights, people lived closer to the rhythm of moonlight. Night was not just darkness, it was shaped by the moon's passage. A bright full moon meant more hours to work, to walk, to gather. A thin crescent called for rest, for quiet, for waiting. Stories were shared by firelight under waning moons. Decisions were made in waxing ones. Entire lives were aligned with how the moon shifted its weight across the sky. We have not forgotten these rhythms. They live in us still, a soft echo beneath the static of modern time. Even now, when we step outside into the coolness of evening and tilt our heads skyward, something stirs. It's not just the beauty of the moon that moves us. It's the recognition, a remembering. We are looking at something that has watched humanity for thousands of years, through every war, every lullaby, every whispered wish. Its glow has not aged, though we have. Its silence has not changed, though we have filled our nights with sound. The moon remains, slow, steady, patient, as if waiting for us to return to ourselves. And we do. In quiet moments, in sleepless hours, in the space between thoughts, we return. The moon is not an escape, but a reflection of something inside us. Our cycles of change, our need for pause, our longing to be seen even in stillness. There's a reason the moon shows up in dreams, in poems, in songs. It is the shape of presence without demand, the shape of being enough just by being. In science, we study the moon's gravity, its orbital tilt, its surface composition. We map its craters and name its valleys. We send probes to trace its dust, to collect its soil, to understand its past. And yet, with all this knowledge, the feeling remains. A feeling that goes beyond data. That feeling we get when a moonbeam falls across our pillow, when a child points skyward and smiles, when the power goes out and the only light left is lunar. It is the same light our ancestors saw, the same gentle reminder, you are not alone in the dark. The moon's journey is not static. It drifts farther from Earth each year, inch by inch, a silent departure so slow we cannot feel it. Yet it means something. It tells us that even the closest things change, that even constant companions shift their course, and that somehow this movement does not lessen their presence, it deepens it. We treasure the moon not because it is fixed, but because it moves and remains. And perhaps that is the deepest truth it carries. That light, even borrowed, even delayed, still matters. That what we reflect may reach others in ways we never fully know. The moon does not choose what light it receives. It simply turns, holds it, and offers it back. And in that offering it becomes beautiful. We too reflect. Our kindnesses, our gestures, our patience, they may seem small, but like the moon's glow, they are someone else's guiding light, a glimmer in their night. There are moments when the moon is low in the sky, enormous and amber, as if it has come closer just to be noticed. These moonrises stop people mid-step. They pull eyes upward, hush conversations, slow the pace of hurried evenings. In those moments, time stretches. We forget the clocks, the noise, the glowing screens. We remember where we are, on a turning earth, bathed in reflected sunlight, watched over by a companion older than memory. Children sometimes ask if the moon follows them, and in a way it does. Its position in the sky appears to shift with your steps because you and it are moving together, both riding the same turning sphere, both suspended in the same vast silence. It's not chasing you, it's keeping you company. And that small comfort, however imagined, is one we never really outgrow. So as the moon completes another quiet orbit, and the night stretches gently across rooftops and fields, take a moment, step outside even for just a breath, look up. The light you see left the sun over a minute ago, travelled nearly 100 million miles, touched the moon's surface and found its way to your eyes, not to dazzle, but to remind. That light, held gently by dust, carried softly by space, has arrived for you. And when you lie down, when your room grows dim and the world quiets once more, know this: the moon will still be there, turning slowly through the sky, keeping its rhythm, reflecting its memory. You are not far from the light. You are wrapped in it, softened, slowed and seen. The moon does not shine, it remembers. And through that remembering, it offers us peace. Somewhere between the hush of dusk and the slow yawn of dawn lies a moment so quiet it almost vanishes: midnight. It is not loud like noon or bright like morning. It does not shout its arrival. It appears gently like a soft breath held in the sky. And yet, hidden within its stillness is a language older than words, older than clocks, the quiet mathematics that shape everything while the world sleeps. Midnight is more than a time on a clock. It is a balance point, a turning, the exact halfway mark between yesterday and today, between where we've been and where we're going. It sits silently on the spine of the night, unnoticed by most but essential to the rhythm of the earth. Just as the solstice marks the longest pause of the sun, midnight marks the deepest fold of night, the softest bend in time. In ancient skies, before hours and minutes divided the day, the stars were the only clocks. They turned across the heavens like beads on a string, their positions marking the passage of time with perfect consistency. Midnight was the moment when certain constellations reached their highest point in the sky. Orion, the hunter, would rise, arch, and fall, always returning. It was a time measured not by hands on a dial, but by stars in motion. And still, those patterns continue. Above city lights and digital noise, the night sky unfolds in silent precision. Every star you see is part of a dance governed by gravity, distance, and time. Their paths, though distant, are not random. They are equations written in starlight, arcs, rotations, invisible lines drawn through the cosmos. And at midnight, when the earth has turned its back to the sun, the universe leans in closer, offering its quiet geometry. Mathematics is not only found in equations and chalkboards. It lives in the petals of flowers, in the spacing of leaves, in the spiral of a galaxy. It guides the curve of a river, the branching of trees, the shape of snowflakes. Midnight, though cloaked in darkness, is full of these shapes. The orbit of the moon, the tilt of the earth, the wobble of its axis, all continue precisely and silently through the deepest hours of the night. Even your heartbeat follows patterns shaped by ancient math. The rhythm of rest, the pace of breathing, the cycles of REM sleep, all are part of a system that adjusts as light fades and the body slips into its natural pulse. The pineal gland, hidden deep in the brain, begins to release melatonin as evening darkens. Not randomly, but on cue, part of a biological clock tuned to the fading edge of sunlight. Midnight for the body is not just time, it is transition. It is repair. While you sleep, your brain begins sorting the day's memories, deciding what to keep, what to let go. Neural pathways are strengthened, cleaned, restructured, not in chaos, but in algorithms. Midnight is when the most intricate repairs begin, as if the mind itself knows this is the quietest time to rebuild. Cells regenerate, hormones balance, energy returns. The body, without your instruction, begins its most silent work, following instructions written in the language of midnight math. Animals move to this rhythm too. Owls, with eyes wide to capture dim light, take flight in precision arcs. Bats map the air with echoes, triangulating movement as surely as satellites above. Even insects follow lunar cycles and magnetic lines, an unseen grid guiding their paths. These are not wild guesses, these are calculations. Nature's way of moving through the dark without losing direction. In cities, we often forget this. Surrounded by light, we flatten the night into sameness. But even artificial time follows natural curves. The rise in traffic, the lull at midnight, the pulse of electricity through the grid, all of it mirrors the larger cycles. Midnight is when most of the world quiets, not because we all agreed to, but because something in us responds to the turning of the earth. We feel the lull, we fold into it. There's a kind of music in all of this, a pattern you can't hear, but which plays just beneath the surface. Mathematicians have long described beauty in terms of symmetry and balance. And the night, especially its deepest hour, is full of such symmetry. The moon's cycle, from new to full and back again, is not a guessing game. It is a pattern so precise we can predict eclipses centuries in advance. Midnight is where these patterns converge, where the equations tighten, where the moment holds still. If you've ever stood outside in the heart of the night, truly still, you might have felt it, that gentle pause. The air is different. The world breathes slower. The trees sway in wider arcs. Shadows grow rounder. Even your thoughts move more slowly, not sluggishly, but with a kind of care. That sensation is not imagination. It's rhythm. It's resonance. It's the mathematics of the cosmos brushing against your skin. And even though we mark midnight with numbers, 1200 am, the start of a new day, it is not made of numbers. It is made of motion, of turns and tilts, of orbits and cycles. The math behind midnight is not cold or rigid. It is fluid, poetic. It is the soft calculation of galaxies spinning, of Earth leaning just so, of your breath raising in a room full of sleep. So when midnight comes again, and it always does, you may not hear it, but you are within it. You are held inside a moment calculated across time, shaped by stars, carried in tides, felt in your bones. It is not the end of something, it is the centre, the hush, the fold of time in which everything is briefly held in perfect balance before turning toward light once more. Let us now move deeper into the heart of midnight, where numbers soften into motion and formulas dissolve into feeling. This is not the mathematics of chalkboards or calculators. It is the mathematics that breathes, the kind that sleeps under the stars and wakes with the tides. At this hour everything continues to turn, the earth beneath your feet, the moon in its orbit, your cells in their quiet renewal, each guided by ancient patterns as old as time itself. Beneath the surface of sleep, your body follows rules you never needed to learn. Your temperature drops slightly, your muscles relax, your heart slows. These changes do not arrive at random. They arrive on cue, as if following a score written long ago. Midnight is the climax of that score, not loud but precise, marking the point when your body reaches its deepest rest. This phase is called slow-wave sleep, and it's where the real repair begins. Proteins are rebuilt, the immune system strengthens, and your brain, like a gentle librarian, files away the day's thoughts into shelves you will never see. This is not magic. It is pattern. It is sequence. Researchers studying circadian rhythms have found that nearly every cell in your body carries a tiny clock, not made of gears or hands, but of molecules cycling through their dance of activation and rest. These clocks, scattered across your organs, speak to one another through hormones and light. And midnight is when they speak most clearly, when all the clocks align into a hush. Even dreams follow this rhythm. You do not enter them randomly, but in cycles, drifting from light sleep to deep, from stillness into stories. REM sleep, when dreams are most vivid, is not chaos. It is a crescendo, building gently across the night, peaking just before morning. The mind does not dream to escape, but to process, to turn experience into insight, emotion into understanding. It is a kind of algebra of the soul, subtracting, adding, rearranging until something inside feels more whole. The stars outside your window are part of this same system. As Earth rotates, constellations shift across the sky with such precision that their positions at midnight can be used to navigate oceans. Sailors once found their way by calculating the height of Polaris above the horizon. They knew that behind the stars lay numbers, distances, degrees, arcs of the movement. To watch the stars at midnight is to watch a clock that never breaks. And what of the moon? It too obeys a script written in math. Its orbit is not a circle, but an ellipse, slightly stretched, always in motion. At certain points, it comes closer to Earth, appearing larger in the sky, a supermoon. At others, it drifts farther away, shrinking slightly. These changes are predictable, calculable, not guesses, but truths, wrapped in silence. Even its phases, the gentle transformation from crescent to full, are measured moments in a 29.5-day cycle. Not one phase happens by accident. Each is part of a lunar calendar that life itself follows. Farmers still plant by the moon, trusting the gravitational shifts to swell roots or dry fields. Fishermen study tide tables, knowing that the moon's pull will shape the movement of fish. and biologists track how animals breed, hunt, and migrate according to moonlight. These behaviours are not random, they are responses to the geometry of the sky, the invisible math that writes itself in instinct. Even the silence of midnight has a pattern. In urban soundscapes, decibel levels drop in measurable ways. Traffic noise decreases, machinery slows, voices fall to whispers. This quiet is not accidental, it is rhythmic. A wave of stillness that travels across cities like a soft pulse. At the same time, other sounds rise, crickets, distant trains, the rustle of night wind. These too follow cycles, a symphony of moments, each arriving on time. In the natural world, predators use this hour for precision. Owls calculate the flight of prey by triangulating rustles with pinpoint accuracy. Their wings are shaped to slice silently through the air, the result of evolutionary equations that reduce turbulence. Spiders rebuild webs with mathematical symmetry, threads spaced for tension and strength. Even flowers, closed tightly during daylight heat, unfold their petals at night according to the curve of moisture and moonlight. The logic is soft but certain. There is beauty in this certainty, in knowing that beneath the random chaos of life there are rules that hold. Midnight reminds us of that. When everything feels still, the universe is still solving, still turning, still arranging its great puzzle into something that makes sense. Even chaos, it seems, has its algorithm. Even sleep has its structure. And we too are part of that structure. Our thoughts spiral, our habits repeat, our days follow arcs not unlike the planets. When we feel lost, it is often because we've stepped out of rhythm, lost the cadence of rest and wake, a pause and movement. Midnight invites us to return, to align again with the quiet math of being alive. That alignment does not need numbers, it needs noticing. The way your breath slows in darkness, the way your eyes close a little earlier in winter, the way your mind drifts toward reflection as the clock nears midnight. These are not habits, they are inheritances. They are the body remembering what the stars have always known. And so, as the second half of the night begins, as midnight gives way to the slow turn toward morning, the math continues. The earth keeps spinning, the sky keeps shifting, the cells keep dancing, and somewhere within it all you rest, cradled by patterns you never needed to understand to be a part of. You do not need to solve the math of midnight. You only need to feel it, to trust that you are within it, to know, in the quiet of your room, that something vast and gentle is still counting, and that you are held in the rhythm it keeps. As we move into the final hours before dawn, we arrive at the tender closing of midnight's geometry, the last fold in a pattern that has held us all night long. Outside, the stars still shine with their ancient precision, but something begins to shift. The air feels different. The hush begins to stir. The equations that guided the stillness are preparing for movement again. The mathematics of midnight does not end. It transforms. There is a name for this moment. Just before the first light breaks the horizon, astronomical twilight. It begins when the sun is still far below the surface of the earth, invisible but not gone. At this time, the sky begins to lighten not from the sun itself, but from the scattering of sunlight against the upper edge of the atmosphere. This is not yet morning, but the slow untying of night's final knot. The math continues, softer now, rounding its corners into warmth. Your body knows this moment too, even in sleep. Melatonin, which held you in rest, begins to fade. Cortisol rises gently, not in alarm, but in quiet preparation. Cells shift gears. Blood warms slightly, the clocks within you, still ticking in harmony with the dark, begin to whisper of light. This transition, invisible to the eyes, is written deep in the body's script. You are waking even before your eyes open. The birds know it first. In nearly every part of the world, the earliest birds begin their songs just before the light appears. This chorus is not random. It follows a precise patterns across species and geography. Some call it the dawn chorus, but in truth it begins while the sky is still dark. It is the sound of creatures responding to a change in light that has not yet come, a call and answer with the mathematics of hope. And as this transition unfolds, the universe does not stop calculating. Satellites continue tracing their arcs above. Tides begin to shift slightly, following the combined pull of the moon and sun. Dew gathers on grass at just the right angle, each droplet forming a tiny lens, reflecting the faintest hint of returning colour. spiderwebs glisten in grey-blue shadows. All of it part of the algorithm, the endless script of repetition and renewal. But what makes the mathematics of midnight so quietly powerful is not just its presence, it is its invisibility. The most important turns of the earth, the most delicate changes in the sky, happen while most of us sleep. Our eyes closed, our minds adrift. We miss the unfolding of stars across ceilings, the migration of galaxies across the roof of night. But that does not make it less real. The beauty of the universe does not depend on our witnessing it, it simply continues. In this, there is comfort. Midnight does not ask to be seen, it only asks to be trusted. Like a pendulum at the furthest reach of its swing, it holds for just a moment before beginning its return. It is the center of balance in the dark. And from that center, everything begins again. We are often taught to measure time in hours and minutes, in deadlines and alarms. But the mathematics of midnight teaches something else. That time is a rhythm, not a ruler. That rest is not a pause in progress, but a necessary part of the equation. Midnight is not wasted time. It is sacred time, a place in the spiral where stillness holds the key to motion. Even the universe itself, vast and ever-expanding, has a rhythm. Cosmologists speak of cosmic background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, still humming through space, a whisper of the universe's beginning. This radiation has a frequency, a temperature, a pulse. The universe, it seems, has its own kind of heartbeat. It, too, holds silence with meaning. So when you next find yourself awake in the middle of the night, not restless, but simply present, consider the clockwork around you. Not the numbers glowing on your phone, but the quiet rotations of stars above, the slow breath of the earth below, the soft calculations happening in your blood. You are not outside the pattern. You are inside it, a moving part in a perfect machine. Let your breath match that rhythm. Let your thoughts soften. Let the knowledge of this vast order wrap you like a blanket. You do not need to solve the equations to belong to them. You are not a separate observer. You are a number in the sum, a note in the chord, a shape in the spiral. As the sky begins to glow, not yet day but no longer night, the mathematics of midnight yields to the algebra of dawn. The angles shift, the light bends, the song of birds rises in arcs. And somewhere in your chest, a rhythm begins again. You stretch, you breathe, you begin. Midnight does not linger. It passes gently without ceremony, but it leaves behind its lesson that even in stillness something is always moving, that every pause contains a plan, that in the quietest places the truest shapes are made. And so, as light returns and day begins to open its eyes, remember the story written in the night behind you. Remember the equations carved in shadow, the circles within circles, the unseen patterns that carried you here. You do not stand at the start of something new. You stand in the continuity of everything. This is the mathematics of midnight, and you are part of its solution. Far beyond the blue sky, past the clouds and the silent drift of satellites, the sun breathes, not with lungs, not with breath as we know it, but with a wind that never stops. This wind is not air. It is made of particles, charged and racing, invisible but real. It streams outward from the sun in every direction, carrying with it whispers of the star that warms our days. And though we cannot feel it on our skin or hear it in our ears, the solar wind moves through space like a message without words. The Earth is not untouched by this breath. Our planet, small and spinning, stands in the path of that endless stream. But instead of letting it strike us head-on, Earth wears a shield, a magnetic field that surrounds us like a silent guardian. When the solar wind reaches us, it is bent, shaped, and guided by that invisible armour. Most of it never touches the surface. Instead, it flows around us, curling, spiralling, painting the sky in colours we call auroras. These lights, green, purple, red, do not come from storms or fire. They come from charged particles colliding with atoms in the upper atmosphere. The wind from the sun, slowed and softened by Earth's magnetism, brushes against oxygen and nitrogen, and the air glows like breath on glass. This glow, dancing near the poles, is a quiet song of physics, written in colour and motion. The aurora is a place where the wind becomes visible, where the silence of space becomes beauty. But even where there is no light, the solar wind moves. It stretches Earth's magnetic field into a long tail that trails behind us, like a ribbon in a river. This magnetic tail can twist and snap, releasing energy into space. These movements, though unseen, shape weather in space, a storm not of rain but of radiation. Satellites are affected, instruments blink, even power grids on Earth can feel the distant push, all of it guided by a wind that never touches ground. And yet, despite its force, the solar wind is delicate. It carries tiny pieces of the sun, protons, electrons, travelling at hundreds of kilometers per second, and these pieces tell stories. Scientists use satellites to catch them, to study their shape and speed. They are messengers, each one a fragment of the star's surface, torn free and flung into the dark. They teach us how the sun behaves, how it pulses, how it changes. They carry the sun's memory. Some of these particles reach far beyond Earth. They drift past Mars, past Jupiter, past the icy edges of the solar system. At some point, far from the warmth of sunlight, the solar wind slows and blends with the particles between the stars. This place, the heliopause, is the edge of the sun's breath. Beyond it lies interstellar space, quiet, vast, and filled with other winds from other stars. But within our solar system, everything, planets, moons, comets, swims in this unseen tide, all of us moving through a sea of solar wind. And within that wind, there are patterns. Bursts of speed, waves, shocks. The sun does not breathe evenly. Sometimes it erupts, flares burst from its surface, loops of magnetism snap and rearrange. These moments send faster waves into space, ripples of energy that can reach Earth in days. When they arrive, the auroras grow brighter. Instruments buzz louder. And still Earth's shield holds, flexing, bending, absorbing the shock. Long ago, before we knew about particles and fields, people watched the auroras with wonder. They called them spirits, dragons, fire in the sky. In northern lands, they were signs of stories being told above. In the south, they were seen as sky rivers flowing between stars. No one could touch them, but everyone felt them. The solar wind, though unknown, was always present. Its touch was felt in wonder. And still it continues. Even now the sun releases its breath, particle by particle, toward every corner of its reach. The solar wind shapes the tails of comets, sweeping their dust into glowing arcs. It pushes against the boundaries of our world, reminding us that space is not empty, but alive. The light we see is only part of the story. The rest is in the wind, in the movement, the whisper, the invisible tide that connects us to the heart of our star. Every second, the sun loses part of itself to this wind. It is not a loss in sadness, but in generosity. It gives, it sends, it shares, and in doing so it links every planet, every moon, every grain of dust into a network of motion. We are all, in some way, sailing through the breath of a star, held, moved, touched by something we cannot see, but which shapes everything. The next time you look up into the night and see stars glittering above, or catch a glimpse of green light dancing near the poles, remember this: the space between you and the sun is not empty. It is full of motion, full of meaning, and you are inside it, wrapped in the quiet wind of a sun that never sleeps. Let us drift deeper now into the silent current of that invisible wind, the solar breath that never stops, yet never makes a sound. Its journey begins at the surface of the sun, a place not made of fire, but of plasma, a sea of charged particles so hot and free that atoms no longer hold themselves together. From this roiling surface, loops of magnetic energy twist and snap, hurling streams of particles outward. The corona, the sun's glowing crown, reaches millions of degrees in temperature, far hotter than the surface below, and it is from this strange, radiant halo that the solar wind is born. The sun, with all its ancient patience, does not push the wind like a gust on Earth. It releases it almost casually, the way a candle lets go of heat. But this release is continuous, and it spans the solar system. It moves past Mercury, stripping it of atmosphere. It slides by Venus, presses gently against Earth's shield, bends around Mars, brushes Jupiter's magnetic bubble, and eventually reaches places so distant that sunlight takes hours to arrive. All of it part of the same motion, a wind that started in silence and will never stop. Though the solar wind is mostly made of electrons and protons, it carries with it something more mysterious: magnetic fields. These are not separate from the particles. They ride along with them, tangled like threads in a stream. These fields twist and ripple as they go, forming spirals known as the Parker spiral, named for the scientist who first described their shape. Because the sun rotates, its magnetic field does not travel in straight lines. It curls, spins, stretches like ribbons unwinding in space. If you could see it, the solar wind would look like lace, a moving pattern of energy wrapping every planet in turn. Earth's magnetic field meets this wind with grace. It does not block it outright, but invites it to flow around, above, and behind. This creates the magnetosphere, a region of space where Earth's own magnetism holds sway. Within this protective bubble, satellites circle, astronauts travel, signals fly. And yet this field is not static. It shivers, it swells, it twists in response to the solar wind. Sometimes, when a particularly strong wave arrives, perhaps from a solar flare or a coronal mass ejection, the entire system pulses. These are magnetic storms, space weather. And though we do not feel them like rain or wind, they can ripple through technology, through power grids, even through the atmosphere itself. But the story of the solar wind is not just one of danger or defense. It is one of connection. When the wind reaches Earth, it can enter near the poles, spiraling down magnetic lines toward the upper atmosphere. There, it meets atoms of oxygen and nitrogen, and they begin to glow. The colours of the aurora depend on these atoms: green for oxygen, red for high-altitude oxygen, purple and blue for nitrogen. These lights are not decorations, they are signatures, each flicker a note in the music of the wind. Farther from Earth, the solar wind brushes past other worlds. On Mars, where the atmosphere is thin and the magnetic field long lost, the solar wind strips particles from the sky, carrying them into space. It is a slow erosion, but a powerful one. Over billions of years, it may have taken much of Mars's once thicker atmosphere, leaving behind the dry and frozen planet we see today. On Jupiter, the wind enters a magnetic field so massive it stretches millions of kilometers, a swirling force that powers radiation belts and glows at the poles. Even Pluto, distant and cold, feels the solar wind as it sails through the outer edge of its influence. And at the very edge, the solar wind meets its match. In a place called the termination shock, the wind slows, pushed back by the interstellar medium, the thin gas and dust that drifts between stars. Here the wind compresses. Beyond it lies the heliopause, the final border of the sun's influence. Voyager 1 and 2, tiny spacecraft launched decades ago, have crossed this threshold. They now sail in interstellar space, still whispering back to us, still tasting the edge of solar breath. What they tell us is not just about stars or particles, it's about how far connection can reach. Back here on Earth, we carry this connection inside us. Every atom in your body has felt the sun's light, its gravity, its wind, the warmth on your skin, the growth of plants, the oxygen in your breath, all of it shaped by the sun's energy, delivered through light and wind alike. Even in darkness, even in shadow, the memory of that energy lingers. We do not just orbit the sun, we are held by it, fed by it, moved by its breath. And in the spaces between, in the quiet nights when the sky feels still, that wind continues. You may not see it, you may not hear it, but it is there, wrapping the earth, threading through the stars, curling past comets and moons. It carries messages from the sun's surface, from eruption long since faded. It reminds us that the universe is not static, but in motion, not silent, but singing in frequencies too wide for ears to catch. Somewhere high above the polar sky, the aurora shimmers again. Its dance is not random, it is timed, tuned, aligned with particles that left the sun days ago. Their journey was long but not aimless. They were drawn by Earth's magnetic breath, pulled toward our atmosphere, and transformed into light. And we, looking up, witness their story. The solar wind is not just movement, it is memory, a record of heat and time and distance written in waves and colour. So let the wind remind you, even in the deepest quiet there is motion. Even in the stillness of night, something is always arriving. You're not outside the flow, you are within it, part of the spiral, the pattern, the music. And somewhere above you, without ever touching ground, the sun continues to breathe. Let us follow the wind to its softest reaches, not the edge of space, but the inner quiet it creates. After all its spirals and streams, its collisions with atmosphere and curves around planets, the solar wind does something even more subtle. It settles into us. Not as a gale, but as influence. It shapes not only the skies, but the silence beneath them. Beneath the wind, life listens. Beneath the motion, stillness blooms. Every seed that unfurls into green, every bloom that turns toward the light, every root that spreads unseen below, all are moved by what the sun sends. Though light may be more obvious, it is the wind, too, that carries a trace of the sun's intentions. Its charged particles can touch DNA, spark mutations, drive evolution in invisible threads, not directly, not violently, but through time, as cosmic rays, as soft nudges against the fragile scrolls of life's code. And perhaps it is in this slow touch that we find something even more extraordinary. The solar wind, though vast and wild in the void of space, becomes a whisper here. It is filtered through atmosphere, bent by magnetism, softened by distance. What arrives on Earth is not harm, but history, a record of the sun's temperament, a story about the face we cannot stare into, told through particles small enough to pass unnoticed, but not unfelt. Scientists have begun to trace these whispers more closely. Some study isotopes trapped in ice cores, seeing how past solar storms left fingerprints in the polar caps. Others examine tree rings, finding slight variations in carbon that echo flares from centuries ago. In these rings, in this ice, are traces of the sun's breath, not just the light it gave, but the wind it sent, recorded without ink or voice. The Earth remembers, even when we forget. And just as Earth holds these memories, so too does the body. Each moment you spend under the sky, your skin takes in the sun's energy. The warmth you feel on a cool morning is more than temperature. It is a link, a pulse, a continuity. The sun is not just above, it is within you, in every cell powered by photosynthesis, in every breath given by a tree. The wind that flows past our world once flowed through the furnace of fusion, deep within a core of hydrogen and fire, and from that fire came the breath that shapes us. But the story does not end here. In fact, it circles outward. The same wind that brushes against your magnetosphere also carries dust from ancient stars, swept into the solar system by the journey of time. These grains, older than our sun, older even than our galaxy in some cases, are nudged and shifted by the solar wind. They drift, they spiral, they gather, on meteorites, on planets, on comets. Some even fall to Earth. What we call stardust is not poetic fancy. It is literal. It lands on mountaintops. It rests on your sleeve. It enters the ocean, the soil, the body. You are in every possible sense touched by the breath of stars. And yet this cosmic conversation is not loud. It does not thunder or scream. It is a whisper beneath everything. A thread connecting suns and spores, atoms and galaxies. The wind is not here to announce, but to remind that nothing is truly alone, that motion is constant, that the sun, even from 93 million miles away, can reach out, not just with heat, but with presence. Think of the Voyager probes again, those small silent emissaries now far beyond the sun's reach. They carry messages carved into golden records, music and voices, greetings and diagrams, but the space around them is also speaking. The solar wind has thinned there, slowed nearly to a stop, yielding to the winds of other stars. This is not the edge of communication, it is the beginning of a new one, where one wind fades, another begins, and in that overlap the universe whispers across the dark. The idea that stars have winds, that their atmospheres flow into space, may seem strange, but when you think about it gently, it makes sense. Stars, like everything living or not, reach outward. They expand, they touch, they give. The solar wind is not so different from breath. It carries with it not only substance but intent, and to reach, to warm, to shape. And as we drift through it, we are not merely passengers. We are participants. Every aurora that pulses at the pole, every signal that curves through the magnetosphere, every comet that grows its glowing tail, they are expressions of this shared motion. Even your compass pointing north relies on the balance between Earth's field and the wind pressing against it. Without that wind, without that pressure, The magnetic field would collapse inward. The balance would break. The Earth needs the wind to hold its shape, so in a way the solar wind is not just external. It is a part of what keeps the world ordered, a gentle resistance, a pressure that defines boundary. Without it there would be no edge, no shape, no tension from which direction arises. The wind is what gives the shield its meaning. It is the dance partner that never rests. And as the night moves on and the sun begins again to edge toward your part of the world, the wind is already there, long before the light arrives, already pressing, already curling around, already shaping what the morning will bring. You may not feel it on your skin, but the air, the sky, the world beneath your feet has already responded. So breathe. Know that you are inside a great and ancient breath, that everything you see, the stars, the clouds, your own reflection, is moving through a wind that began in the heart of a sun. Let that thought settle like soft dust on your shoulders. Let it hold you. Let it remind you that there is motion in stillness, warmth in distance, and connection in even the quietest stream. The solar wind does not make a sound, but its whisper is everywhere. It shapes the edges of your sky, and you, quietly, are held within it. When the sun slips below the edge of the trees and the last golden threads fall away, something quiet begins beneath the green. Leaves, those small and tender mirrors of the day, begin to fold into the shadows. The trees do not speak as we do, but in the dark they shift their shape. The world above sleeps, and the world within begins to whisper. For the leaf, darkness is not emptiness. It is invitation. It is the beginning of rest, of change, of a rhythm shaped not by sight but by time. Every leaf, from the tiniest clover to the broad hand of a banana plant, is tuned to light. It watches the sun without eyes, listens without ears. Inside each leaf are tiny chloroplasts, structures full of green, where sunlight is caught and turned into energy. These chloroplasts move through the leaf's cells during the day, aligning themselves to capture as much light as they can. But at night, when the light fades, they drift downward, like boats settling at the bottom of a tide. It is a kind of sleep, not complete, not still, but gentle. This sleep is not just stillness, it is shape. Many plants fold their leaves at night, a movement called nyctinasti. You can watch it in the prayer plant, whose leaves rise like hands at dusk. You can see it in legumes, whose leaflets droop with evening. These movements are not random. They are triggered by the changing levels of light and temperature, by shifts in internal pressure, by the silent pulse of circadian rhythm. A rhythm not born in thought, but in the memory of centuries. Darkness to the leaf is not danger. It is design. During the day, leaves stretch wide to capture light and exchange gases. At night, they close to conserve water, to protect from cold, to limit exposure. It is a dance. Open, close, breathe, rest. Shaped not by a mind, but by an ancient intelligence written into cells. A leaf sleeps because the sun has turned away, but it sleeps in preparation, not in retreat. Inside the stem, messages travel. Cells expand and contract, moving water with quiet precision. Some proteins begin to rise while others fade. Hormones like auxin shift their concentration, guiding the tilt of a stem toward or away from light. And in the dark, a different set of genes become active, those that repair, restore, reset. The leaf is not idle, it is working in silence. Plants know the difference between day and night, not only because of sunlight, but because of internal clocks. These clocks tick even in total darkness, even in the absence of cues. If you take a plant into a room with no light and no sound, its rhythms will continue. The leaves will still rise and fall, the genes will still cycle. This is circadian rhythm, a deep and biological memory of the Earth's turning. The leaf does not need to see the sun to remember it, and still the darkness has shape. It falls unevenly. In a forest, shadows shift as the moon climbs. Some leaves remain dappled with starlight, others rest beneath the full weight of night. Yet all respond. Even in moonlight, even in the faint electric glow of a nearby city, plants can detect the difference. Their sleep is lighter, their rhythms altered. The wrong light at the wrong time can confuse the leaf, delay its rest, dim its strength, disrupt its gentle repair. Scientists have found that trees exposed to artificial light at night grow more slowly, flower at the wrong time, struggle to reset. Light pollution, so soft to our eyes, is a storm to the biology of plants. The darkness that shapes the leaf's sleep must be deep, must be still, must arrive when expected. It is not absence that matters, it is pattern. The predictability of night is what gives the leaf its peace. In tropical forests, where the canopy weaves tight above and the shadows stretch wide, plants live in layers of light and dark. Some leaves receive sun for only minutes each day, yet still they follow the rhythm. Others bask in daylight, then drop into darkness like stones into water. And even here, far from human noise, the pattern holds. Roots draw water upward. Sugars move through phloem like silent rivers, all of it aligned with the sun's slow arc, with the shadow's slow drift. Darkness shapes not only the sleep of leaves, but their form. In dense forests, plants stretch toward light, growing taller, thinner, broader. Their shape is a response to the absence, a reaching. Shade-tolerant species grow wider leaves, deeper green, more efficient at catching the tiniest glint. Their design is sculpted not by light itself, but by its lack. Where darkness lingers, adaptation blossoms. Where night is long, resilience grows. Even underwater, where sunlight filters down in columns, aquatic plants respond. At night, their blades curl inward, bubbles of oxygen cease to rise. Algae in oceans adjust their buoyancy, drifting towards surface light by day, sinking by night. These movements are not accidents, they are choreography. The ocean's forest sleeps too, rocking in currents, listening to moonlight in waves. And beneath it all, beneath the forest floor or the garden bed, roots continue their secret work. They do not rest when leaves sleep. They branch and grow, respond to moisture, trace the trails of fungi. They move by millimeters, yet their movement is endless. At night, without the sun's demands, the roots feed the whole, sending water upward, collecting nutrients, keeping time with a clock that never stops ticking. The leaf curled now against the coolness of evening is not passive. It is remembering. It is waiting. The sugars it made during the day are now moving, fueling growth, fueling storage, fueling the quiet machinery of life. Night is not a pause. It is a process. It is the gentle continuation of life in another form. And as you walk through a garden in the dark or pass beneath a sleeping tree, or press your hand to the damp bark of something ancient, remember that what rests above is only half the story. Beneath the hush is movement. Beneath the shadow is memory. And in the folded leaf is the shape of trust, that the light will return, that the pattern will hold, that rest is not the end, but the root of becoming. Let us move deeper into the quiet world of the leaf, where sleep is not slumber but transformation, and darkness becomes a kind of soft instruction. The night does not simply cover the plant world, it shapes it from the inside. Within the hush of darkness, chemical messengers rise and fall, rearranging what the day began. Sugars produced by sunlight begin their long journey through the phloem, flowing from leaves to roots, to fruits to seeds. The day gathers energy, the night distributes it. This process is called translocation, and it hums through the plant in silence. Unlike animals, plants do not have a heart to pump fluids. Instead, they use pressure, a difference between where sugar is made and where it is needed. The leaf, rich with sugar after a day of light, becomes a source. Roots, flowers, and growing tips become sinks, places that draw the sugar in. This flow is slow, steady, unceasing. At night, without the demands of photosynthesis, the plant turns inward, and the flow deepens. The leaf does not sleep, it nourishes. Within the cells, enzymes awaken. These molecules begin to convert the sugars into forms the plant can use to build. To repair, to grow, new walls are strengthened, proteins are folded, hormones are adjusted. The plant dreams in molecules, guided not by thought but by precision. Its night is a time of arithmetic and counting light, measuring dark, determining how to stretch toward tomorrow. The shape of a bud, the thickness of a root, the timing of a bloom, all are decided in part beneath the dark. And still, the leaf listens. Even without light, it remains aware of the world around it. Sound travels differently at night. Temperature drops, humidity rises. The leaf can detect these shifts, can fold more tightly if the air is dry, or open slightly if the dew gathers thick. In some plants, night brings fragrance, invisible clouds of scent meant to draw in pollinators that fly by moonlight. Jasmine, Night blooming cereus, tobacco all open their hearts after sunset, knowing their visitors arrive not with the bees of noon, but with the moths of dusk. And so, even in darkness, a kind of dialogue continues. The leaf speaks in water and scent. The air responds in moisture and wind. Insects respond in movement. Bats respond in listening. The entire ecosystem, from forest floor to canopy, from root to wing, continues to interact in rhythms shaped by night. We often think of the day as the active time, but much of the world's business, the blooming, the feeding, the stretching, happens under the stars. Some plants bloom only at night. The queen of the night, a cactus whose flowers last just a few hours, opens in silence after sundown. Its blossom is large, white and fragrant, almost glowing in the dark. It does not open for the sun, it opens for the moon, for the wind, for the chance that a bat or moth may find it. It risks its beauty on the faith that night will carry it forward. In this there is courage. In this there is trust. Trees too respond in ways we are only beginning to understand. Their leaves may shift ever so slightly with the movement of air and moisture. Their branches may lower during the night, as if to rest. In some studies, trees have been observed to droop during sleep, their posture softening as the dark deepens. Then with dawn they slowly rise. This motion is not fatigue, it is function, a resetting of tension, a rebalancing of fluids, a physical expression of internal rhythms too quiet for the eye. At the microscopic level the dance continues. Stomata, the tiny pores on the underside of leaves, close in the dark to preserve water. Guard cells contract, pulling the opening shut. But not all plants close them fully. Some continue a gentle breath, especially in humid or cool conditions. Cacti, desert dwellers, do the opposite. They open their stomata only at night, capturing carbon dioxide while the air is cool, reducing water loss in the process. This process, called KM photosynthesis, is a strategy born of hardship, shaped by centuries of sun and thirst. Even seeds feel the night. Some will not sprout unless they have rested in the dark. For others, a certain number of nights must pass before growth begins, a mathematical memory kept in dormancy. It is not simply the light that tells a plant to wake, it is the counting of darkness, the ratio of day to night, the shape of time itself. A seed listens, a bulb waits, and when the darkness is the right shape they respond. And through it all the leaf keeps time. Inside its cells tiny molecules mark the hours, independent of sun or moon. These rhythms persist in caves, in windowless rooms, in labs and closets and underground vaults. The leaf knows, even without light, what time it is. Not by the ticking of a clock, but by the cycles of genes, the loops of protein activation, the heartbeat of biology. Circadian rhythms were not invented by humans, they were inherited. So when you walk beneath a tree at night, or brush against a plant resting on a windowsill, you are stepping into a time you cannot see. You are part of a world where rest is movement, where darkness is not an end but a recalibration. A leaf may look still, but within it, particles are pulsing, fluids are flowing, cells are realigning. The night is working, and all of this happens without eyes, without thought, without need for applause. The leaf does not boast of its quiet labour. It simply folds, breathes, adjusts, and prepares. It does not know if the morning will return, it simply trusts that it will, and in that trust it rests. This is the shape of darkness in a leaf's sleep, not a closing, but a reorientation, not an escape, but a recalibration. The night is not a void, it is a structure. It holds the plant like a gentle rhythm holds a song, guiding it toward what comes next. The leaf folds because it knows the light, but it rests because it knows the dark. Now let us follow the leaf into its final moments of night, that deep, hushed place where darkness begins to loosen and morning waits just beyond the edge. The leaf, still curled in its quiet posture, does not rush the return. It does not force the light. It simply holds its shape until the world turns enough for the sun to find it again. This patience, this stillness is not inaction. It is wisdom. As dawn begins its gentle unravelling, the leaf stirs. Not visibly, not yet, but within its tissues subtle changes have begun. Photoreceptors, proteins that respond to light, begin to awaken. Even the faintest hints of blue in the atmosphere trigger them. These proteins send signals that the night is ending, that rest is shifting into readiness. Hormones shift again, Water flows differently. Sugars that had settled begin to rise. The leaf stretches not with effort, but with trust, and when the first rays reach the leaf's surface, it does not open all at once. It unfolds slowly, rehydrating its cells, warming its surface, aligning itself once again with the sky. Photosynthesis will begin again, the grand exchange of carbon for oxygen, light for sugar, but for now the light is soft, and the leaf in its sleepy transition absorbs not just energy but rhythm. It remembers how to begin. The dance of light and dark continues not just in the surface of the leaf, but deep in the architecture of the plant. Roots respond to light indirectly, shifting their direction based on hormones produced in leaves. Shoots stretch more with the lengthening of days. Flowers begin to calculate the hours of light they need to bloom. Some need short days, others long, some measure the darkness, others the light. But all listen. This listening is not passive. It is a biological conversation between cell and signal, between memory and condition. A plant in one region of the world may bloom in March. The same species elsewhere may wait until April. They are not confused. They are responding to their own shape of night. Latitude, temperature, moonlight and luminosity all become part of the silent math that tells a plant when to wake. And there is elegance in this uncertainty. Plants do not predict the weather. They do not forecast. They respond. And that response becomes adaptation, and adaptation becomes survival. Over time, species learn to sleep longer, to flower later, to conserve more, all by listening to the dark. It is a kind of trust we forget, the willingness to rest even without guarantees. The leaf folds not because it knows tomorrow will come, but because it must prepare as though it will. There is a tree, the Mimosa pudica, whose leaves fold instantly when touched. It also folds its leaves at night, even without tactile touch. Scientists have studied it not just for its rapid movement, but for its internal timing. Even when removed from all environmental cues, it continues its cycle. Its leaves fold at night, open at day. Its rhythm is not external. It is inherited. It is memory made into motion. In the same way, the moonflower only opens after sundown. Its bloom is brief, its fragrance intense, but it does not wait for permission. It senses the drop in light, the change in air, and it opens fully, even if no eye is there to see it. Even if the moon does not shine that night, it trusts its cue, it obeys the darkness. Humans too carry these rhythms. We speak of being morning people or night owls, but these are not just preferences. They are variations in circadian response tuned by genetics and shaped by experience. The same genes that guide a leaf's opening guide the rise and fall of human sleep hormones. The same molecules that turn a plant toward the sun help reset our clocks after a long journey. We are not separate from these cycles. We are woven into them. When we forget to sleep, when we push past dark with electric light and noise, something in us begins to fray. We lose not only rest, but rhythm. Our thoughts blur. Our bodies resist. Like a leaf forced to stay open in the wrong light, we bend out of shape. And yet, like the leaf, we can return by finding quiet, by honouring dark, by trusting rest as a form of growth. The beauty of the plant world is that it does not resist this truth. It does not argue with the setting sun. It does not mourn the night. It prepares. It adjusts. It closes what must be closed, slows what must be slowed, and in that slowing it finds renewal. The leaf does not fear the dark. It folds into it, knowing it is part of the whole. And so, as the morning light gathers and the leaf begins to stretch back into the shape of the day, we can see it not as waking up, but as continuing. The night did not end anything. It completed it. The sleep was not a pause in life, but its gentle half. The rest was not weakness. It was balance. And the leaf, now full of light once more, carries both memories, of sun and of shadow. Next time you walk past a tree and notice the angle of its leaves, the curl of a stem, the hush of a flower at dusk, pause. Let yourself feel the rhythm that holds it. Let yourself breathe with it. You are not outside this pattern. You are within it. You are shaped by it, down to your very cells. This is the shape of darkness in a leaf's sleep, a lesson in softness, in faith in the quiet logic of letting go. The leaf does not stay open forever. It does not hold the day longer than it must. It rests, and in doing so it becomes ready again, You too may fold your thoughts into stillness. You may close what has grown tired. You may trust the dark to hold you. And when the light returns, as it always does, you will unfurl, not because you forced yourself to bloom, but because you honoured the night that let you begin again. Each evening, as the last light brushes treetops and slips behind the curve of rooftops, the world seems to pause. Shadows lengthen, skies soften, and everything leans gently towards stillness. But this moment, this slow folding into night, is not just a fading of light. It is movement, vast, steady, and continuous. It is the earth turning, not the sun setting, but our planet slowly spinning away from the light, carrying each of us into shadow with quiet certainty. We often speak of sunset as if it is the sun that moves, but it is not. The sun remains, burning with the same golden persistence it always has. It is Earth, rotating on its tilted axis, that creates the illusion of a disappearing sun. Every 24 hours, the planet completes a turn, sweeping us through light and into dark, then back again. This rotation is constant, gentle, unhurried, a perfect rhythm that has continued for over 4 billion years. The Earth turns eastward, which is why the sun appears to rise in the east and set in the west. But the turning is so smooth, so vast in scale, that we do not feel it. We only notice its consequence. Light shifting across windows, shadows stretching across streets, stars beginning to appear one by one. The movement is not loud, it is graceful, and it changes everything. This turning creates day and night, but it also does much more. Because the Earth is tilted, about 23.5 degrees from vertical, different parts of the world receive sunlight at different angles throughout the year. This tilt, combined with the planet's orbit around the sun, gives us the seasons. It is why winter exists, why summer blooms, why equinoxes bring balance and solstices mark the longest and shortest days. All of it, every blossom and snowfall, begins with the tilt and turn. Imagine standing at the equator. There, day and night share the clock almost evenly year-round. The sun rises nearly straight up, travels overhead, then sinks with symmetry. Now imagine standing near the poles. There the story changes. The sun may linger for months, never quite setting. Then during winter it may vanish entirely, hiding below the horizon while darkness settles for weeks. This difference, this variation in light, is written into the sky by the way Earth turns. And yet the Earth's turning is not perfectly constant. It wobbles slightly, a motion known as precession, like a spinning top that tilts gently over time. This wobble, which takes about 26,000 years to complete, slowly shifts the orientation of Earth's axis. It does not change our daily lives, but it alters the stars we see in the night sky over millennia. Thousands of years ago, Polaris was not the North Star. Thousands of years from now, it will not be again. This slow drift, combined with the regular rotation, adds texture to time. Civilizations long before clocks measured the turning of the Earth by watching shadows fall. They used sundials to trace the sun's journey, observing how the angle of its light changed each day. These observations became calendars, planting schedules, sacred rituals. Even today, ancient stone circles still align with solstices and equinoxes, silent witnesses to the sky's slow transformation. But even more than timekeeping, the Earth's turning brings balance. Without rotation, half the world would remain in endless day, scorched by unrelenting sun. The other half would freeze in darkness. Rotation spreads the sun's warmth, regulates climate, and helps generate the Coriolis effect, a force that shapes wind patterns and ocean currents. It is not just turning, it is breathing, distributing energy, redistributing heat, keeping the planet alive. The atmosphere too responds to this motion. As Earth turns, air masses shift. Storms spiral, jet streams form. These movements are not chaotic. They are responses to a rotating frame, to a planet that never stops moving beneath the clouds. Even weather, in its complexity, is part of the great turning. And yet we experience this turning most intimately through the falling of night. When light slips from the sky and the familiar becomes shadowed, we feel the rotation not as movement, but as transformation. The world becomes quieter, colours fade, the air cools, birds return to their nests, flowers close, and slowly our own thoughts begin to turn inward. We are being carried gently into another phase of the cycle. This motion can be imagined. If you were to step outside and look to the west at sunset, you could almost feel the horizon rising to meet the sun. The Earth is not sinking beneath the sun, it is lifting you away from it. You are being rotated into night, the same way others on the far side of the planet are being lifted into day. It is a shared turning, a global rhythm, one side entering dreams, the other waking to light. In this, there is something deeply comforting. We are not falling into darkness, we are rotating toward it, following a path we have taken every day of our lives. It is not abrupt, it is not unnatural, it is the way Earth breathes. The sun is always shining somewhere, and the darkness we enter is not absence but sequence, the next note in a quiet song. The stars appear not because they come forward, but because the sun's light no longer overwhelms them. As we turn away, the sky reveals what was always there. Constellations, planets, distant galaxies. In turning from the sun, we turn toward the rest of the universe. The night becomes a mirror, reflecting the vastness we are part of. A leaf under moonlight, a rooftop under stars, a river glinting with reflected starlight. These are not images of solitude, but of inclusion. So when you watch the sun disappear beyond the hills or feel the sky cool around your shoulders, you are not losing the light. You are completing a motion that began long before you and will continue long after. A motion that links you to oceans and mountains, to trees and sleeping animals, to every person who has ever looked up and watched the sky dim. The earth turns. It has always turned. And in that turning it holds us. Let us now follow the turning earth more closely, deeper into the shadow it casts, into the gentle mechanics of how night falls. There is no sudden boundary between day and darkness, no wall or edge. The line that separates sunlight from shadow is called the terminator, but it is anything but harsh. It is a slow sweep, a gradient of colour and temperature, a drifting veil that moves westward as the planet spins. This line rolls around the earth endlessly, a soft dividing seam between light and rest, gold and indigo. When the terminator passes over you, you do not feel its crossing, you feel its effects, the cooling of the air, the dimming of colours, the shift in bird calls. Shadows stretch, then disappear. The sky turns from blue to lavender, then to a deeper blue, then finally to black. This is twilight, a transition with its own stages, its own timing. Civil twilight, when the sun is just below the horizon and light still fills the sky. Nautical twilight, when sailors can still see the horizon line. Astronomical twilight, when even the faintest sunlight fades, and the stars take full control. Each phase is part of the Earth's quiet choreography. The rotation that drives this movement is a staggering in speed. At the equator, Earth's surface moves at over 600 kilometers per hour, and yet we feel no motion. We do not sway or tilt. We do not need to brace ourselves. This is the grace of consistency, a motion so ancient and stable that it becomes background. But it is this very motion that paints our skies with sunrise and sunset, that tilts shadows across the floor, that returns us gently to the stars each night. The earth turns on its axis like a ballerina in perfect form, balancing on an invisible line that runs from pole to pole. But this axis, this imaginary rod, is not fixed. It nods slightly, a motion called nutation, and shifts over the time due to gravitational interactions with the moon and sun. These subtle movements shape long-term patterns in climate and light, guiding cycles that span thousands of years. The great ice ages, the migration of deserts, even the timing of monsoons, all are whispers of the Earth's tilt and turn. And the moon, our constant companion, plays a role too. Its gravity tugs on Earth's oceans, creating tides that rise and fall with precision. But it also tugs on the solid Earth itself ever so slightly, influencing the planet's rotation. Over vast time, the moon is slowing Earth's spin, not enough to notice in a lifetime, but enough that the days grow longer by milliseconds each century. This slow deceleration is a reminder that even stable systems evolve. Even the most enduring rhythms carry change. Before mechanical clocks, people measured time by watching this turn. Shadow sticks marked the hours, sundials traced the arc of the sun. In ancient Egypt, priests aligned temples with the sun's path. In China, massive armillary spheres charted the heavens. The Maya tracked Venus and solar eclipses with astonishing accuracy. All of these civilizations were watching the Earth turn, and learning to read the language of its shadow. But perhaps the most beautiful consequence of Earth's turning is not timekeeping, but perspective. As the Earth turns away from the sun, it turns toward the stars. The darkness reveals what daylight conceals. The constellations wheel slowly overhead, rising and setting just like the sun, governed by the same rotation. Each hour the sky offers a new composition. Orion setting as Lyra rises, the Big Dipper circling Polaris, the Milky Way stretching like smoke across midnight. If you stay still and look skyward, you may notice the stars drifting ever so slightly. This drift is the Earth's movement made visible. It is your own rotation, traced in starlight. Time-lapse photography captures it best. Circular trails carved across the heavens, each one marking the passage of hours. But even without a camera, you can feel it. Lie on your back in a quiet field, and you can sense the Earth slipping beneath the stars quietly, continuously. And yet, for all its vastness, this turning also brings intimacy. The light that leaves your window at night travels into space as surely as sunlight reaches you. Your breath, your warmth, your laughter beneath the stars, all carried outward on the spinning globe. You are not stationary. You are in motion, carried through darkness toward a dawn. This motion affects not only what we see, but how we feel. Circadian rhythms, embedded deep in our biology, are tied to Earth's rotation. Our sleep, our hormones, our body temperature, even our mood, all fluctuate in tune with light and dark. Jet lag, insomnia, seasonal sadness, these are not failings. They are signals that the body is struggling to sync with the turn. We are not separate from the Earth's rhythm. We are shaped by it down to the level of genes and atoms. Plants respond too. They turn their leaves toward the sun by day, then fold them by night. Flowers close, roots push deeper. Some desert blooms emerge only under starlight, trusting the Earth's turning to bring warmth again soon. Even fungi growing in darkness respond to cycles of light shaped by the planet's rotation. The turning of Earth is not just a background mechanic, it is a pulse of life. And still, the turning goes on. As you read this, the planet continues to rotate beneath the stars. You are moving, not metaphorically but physically, at high speed through space, toward darkness, toward light, toward seasons and solstices, toward memories yet to be made. And in that movement you are part of something ancient, something shared by trees and tides, birds and breeze. So when the sun sets again, and you watch its glow fade from the sky, do not think of the day as ending. Think of it as continuing, in a different light, on a different side of the turn. You're not losing anything, you are circling back, you're entering the same rhythm that has always held the Earth, the same motion that carried ancestors into night and brought them back to morning, the same movement that lifts a child's shadow and lets it fall again with the passing of time. The Earth turns, always, and in that turn we are not lost, we are carried. Now we come to the quietest part of the turn, the moment in which the Earth has fully turned the light away and all is wrapped in the velvet of night. The sky is dark now, not in absence but in abundance. Stars gather overhead like quiet witnesses, each one pinned in place by our own rotation. You're not still, you're on the moving skin of a planet, turning gently into shadow, and that shadow is not a flaw in the light, it is a gift of movement, a space carved for reflection, renewal, and rest. The darkness that wraps around you is not a blanket dropped by chance. It is the shape of the Earth itself, casting its body across the light. It is a geometry, a curve, a rhythm that repeats with such grace we almost forget to notice it. When you see the sun vanish beneath the horizon, you are seeing yourself rotate. Your own home planet turning you gently away from brilliance and towards stillness. And in that turning there is deep belonging. All across the globe, different lands are experiencing different parts of this curve. While your side of the planet enters night, another begins to wake. Light falls on one ocean while another cools in darkness. A bird calls out into dawn as another tucks its head into feathers at dusk. The turn connects us, not just in time but in experience. We are all being carried in the same slow spiral, woven into the same global lullaby. Sleep, too, is part of this cycle. As Earth turns away from the sun, our bodies turn inward. The pineal gland begins to release melatonin. Muscles soften. Breath deepens. We do not command this. We respond to it. Just as the tide follows the pull of the moon, our consciousness follows the pull of night. It is not withdrawal, it is recalibration, a return to the part of ourselves that listens instead of speaks, that dreams instead of directs. Even the dreams we carry are shaped by this movement. The mind, suspended in the body's turning rest, unspools images, memories, fragments of thought. These are not just illusions, they are the brain reorganizing, healing and growing, using the safety of the Earth's shadow to reconstruct what the light gathered. You're turning, and so are your thoughts. You're circling back through the stories you carry, sorting them into meaning, all in tune with the planet beneath you. And there is something else, something more than sleep, more than science. There is peace in this motion. Knowing the Earth turns reliably, rhythmically, without error. No matter what the day held and joy or sorrow, clarity or confusion, the planet continues to spin, and with it the promise of beginning again. No sunrise is earned, no nightfall is punishment. They arrive as gifts of movement, as the natural consequence of trust. The animals know this. Owls fly in silence through the trees, their feathers shaped to muffle the sound of their own motion. Foxes slip through shadow, listening more than seeing. Bats dart in arcs, guided not by sight but by sound, navigating the invisible. Each one has learned to live within the turn, to use the darkness not as absence, but as advantage. The night is not a barrier. It is another form of light, one that asks us to listen more closely, to move more softly, to feel more deeply. Ancient people honoured this balance. Some built temples aligned not only with the sunrise but with the setting sun. Stone markers were raised to catch the last beam of light before the long night. Stories were passed down about the turning of the world, of gods who carried the sun, of wheels in the sky, of dragons that swallowed daylight. And while the stories differed, the awe remained the same, that something so vast could be so gentle, that something so constant could be so quiet. In that quiet, we find ourselves, not just as observers, but as participants. The Earth does not turn without us. We are part of its surface, its pattern, its flow. When you watch the sky grow dark, you're watching your place change in the universe. You're moving, not falling, not drifting, but turning, with purpose, with rhythm, and as midnight arrives, the furthest point in the cycle, you are now turned entirely away from the sun. On the opposite side of the globe, light begins again. Your darkness is their dawn. Your stars are their horizon. You are held between the past and the future, exactly halfway through. And from this place the return begins. The first signs of this return may come as a subtle lightening of the horizon. The air may shift, a bird may stir, a flower may begin to uncurl. The world does not leap into day. It rises slowly, carried on the spack of rotation. This is not rebirth. It is continuation. The Earth has turned the light away, and now it turns back. So the next time you watch the light fade, or the stars arrive, or the edge of the sky deepen into blue, remember this. You are watching the curve of your own journey. You're not alone in this motion. You are one of billions being gently guided by a turning world. Every hour, every moment, every breath carried not by effort, but by design. Let the night hold you. Let the Earth turn. The light will return not because you chase it, but because that is the nature of things. That is the rhythm written into the axis. The sun does not need to move. The Earth carries you toward it again. Always turning, always returning, always home. Wherever you go, it follows, quiet, faithful, soft at the edges. Your shadow. It stretches beside you in morning, crouches beneath you at noon, lengthens like a ribbon as the sun begins to fall. It is not a trick or a ghost. It is a conversation with light, the way your body speaks to the sun. You are not just standing in light. You are shaping it. And your shadow is the trace of that shaping, the silhouette of presence, the proof that you are here. We don't often look at our shadows with curiosity. We see them, acknowledge them, maybe play with them as children, but rarely do we wonder, why do they behave this way? Why do they stretch and shrink, soften and sharpen, disappear and return? A shadow is more than a dark patch on the ground. It is a map, a compass, a quiet sundial stitched to your feet. It tells the story of your place in the sun. At its simplest, a shadow forms when an object blocks the path of light. The sun sends beams across the sky, and your body interrupts that journey. Where the light cannot go, the shadow begins. But the shape and length of that shadow depend on many things: the angle of the sun, the time of day, the season, your location on Earth. In this way, your shadow is not just a reaction. It is a reflection of your moment in time. In early morning and late afternoon, the sun hangs low, and your shadow grows long. It reaches ahead of you as if scouting the path. At midday, when the sun is high, the shadow crouches beneath you, as if resting. These changes are not random. They are the result of Earth's rotation, the steady turning of the planet, which changes the sun's position in the sky, moment by moment. Your shadow is the echo of that turn. In ancient times, people read shadows like clocks. A gnomon, a simple upright stick, could track time by the way its shadow moved. As the sun crossed the sky, the shadow traced an arc, marking hours with elegant precision. These early sundials were not inventions, they were recognitions, ways of noticing what the Earth was already saying. Time cast in silence, measurement painted in shade. But shadows speak of more than time. They reveal depth, direction, and distance. A shadow cast on uneven ground can show the shape of the surface, the contour of the land. Photographers study the angle of shadows to understand how light behaves. Painters use shadows to create dimension, to make flat images breathe. Even the way you feel about a place, cozy, eerie, vibrant, calm, is shaped by shadow. Where it falls, how it moves, what it leaves untouched. And yet shadows are not always attached. A cloud drifts across a meadow, casting a moving island of grey. A bird flies overhead, and its winged outline dances for a heartbeat across the grass. These are shadows in motion, not fixed, but fleeting. They come and go with the movement of the world, reminders that everything which blocks light must also carry a trace of it. You too are part of this movement. As you walk through the day, your shadow travels with you, a silent twin that changes shape but never strays far. On a sunlit wall it may become a giant. On a hill it may twist. On a beach it may blur into the golden brightness. But it remains, not just a copy of your form, but a marker of your existence in the field of light. There are places where shadows vanish, on cloudy days, in diffuse light, in the even glow of twilight. In these moments, light comes from all directions, wrapping around you without being interrupted. The world becomes soft, the edges less clear. This absence of shadow is not emptiness. It is balance, a moment when light no longer favours one path over another, when all directions are equally lit. But even then your body remembers where the light is, your cells respond, your eyes adjust. Even without sharp contrast, you turn toward brightness, feel the warmth, instinctively sense the source. And when the sun emerges again, your shadow reappears, not as a surprise but as a continuation. The dialogue resumes. Children often play with their shadows. They chase them, wave at them, try to step outside of them, but always they remain connected. You cannot outrun your shadow because you cannot outrun light. Wherever there is light, and something to shape it, a shadow will form. It is the inevitable footprint of form in the presence of radiance. Even your breath casts a shadow, faint, fleeting, seen only in the right light. So does your hand, your hair, your smallest gesture. The world is full of tiny shadows, leaves dancing on a wall, lattice patterns on the floor, the silhouette of insects on the blades of grass. These are all moments of shape and light meeting briefly, and then changing, and then returning. Astronomers study shadows too, not on Earth, but in space. When a planet passes in front of a star, it casts a shadow across that distant light. From the way the star dims, scientists can learn the planet's size, its orbit, sometimes even its atmosphere. Shadows stretched across millions of kilometers become messengers. Even the vastness of the cosmos can be read in shade. During eclipses, shadows take center stage. The moon passes between Earth and the sun, and day becomes twilight. Birds quiet, temperatures drop. The shadow of the moon races across the land at hundreds of kilometers per hour. For a few minutes, light is reshaped, and we are reminded of how thin the veil of brightness can be. We are reminded that even celestial bodies cast shadows, that even the heavens have moments of pause. So the next time you notice your shadow stretched along the sidewalk or curling up a wall, do not dismiss it. Do not see it as merely absence. See it as a companion, a record, a moving piece of the sun's journey. It belongs to you, but it also belongs to light. It exists only because of both. Your shadow is not in the way of light. It is the proof of light meeting you, of light being changed by your presence, of the world being different because you are in it. Let us now follow the shadow more gently into the places where it becomes not just shape but signal, a quiet language between light and form. A shadow is more than a silhouette. It is time, temperature, angle, rhythm, all expressed without sound. It stretches with the sun, shrinks with the zenith, flickers with flame, and softens beneath clouds. It is a story constantly rewritten hour by hour, yet always true. Even as it changes shape, it never stops reflecting your position in the turning world. When you walk through a forest at midday, sunlight filters down in shafts between the leaves. On the forest floor, a living mosaic appears, patterns of light and dark in constant conversation. These aren't just beautiful, they are functional. The dappled light helps regulate moisture, gives rest to tender shoots, and creates shifting microclimates for small creatures. Here, shadow becomes texture, a subtle architecture of support. Not all things thrive in full sun. Many forms of life grow best in the softness between, and so it is across nature. The shape and behaviour of plants are shaped by shadow. In dense jungles, leaves grow broader to catch scattered light. Some plants are specialists. They stretch toward bright openings. Others are masters of patience, thriving in shade, waiting for the collapse of a taller neighbour to let the sun reach them. Entire forests rise and fall on the language of light and shadow, competing and cooperating in ways older than memory. Every plant carries a shadow and a strategy. Animals too know this language. Predators use shadows for camouflage. A resting lion becomes nearly invisible in the moving patterns beneath a tree. Prey animals understand how shadows fall and how they change with the hour. A sudden movement where no movement should be becomes a signal to run. Birds cast shadows as they fly, and some insects dive instinctively to avoid them. The flicker of shadow across a pond can mean life or death, but shadows can also guide. In the ancient deserts, travellers read the position of their shadows to find direction when landmarks failed. At night, when the moon rises, shadows turn pale and long, shifting subtly with each hour. Even today, survivalists teach how to use a stick and its shadow to find cardinal directions. The earth rotates, the sun moves across the sky, and the shadow tells the tale. With nothing but the ground and the light, one can find the way. In architecture, shadows are more than accidents of design. They are part of intention. Builders across cultures have used shadows to regulate heat, create beauty, mark sacred times. In ancient temples, shadows were shaped to align perfectly with solstices and equinoxes, a single beam illuminating a hidden carving, a shadow falling just so on a ceremonial stone. These structures were not built merely with stone and mortar, but with sun and time. Even today, in the world of tall buildings and wide cities, architects use computer models to trace how shadows will move across streets and windows. A well-placed shadow can cool a building, protect a courtyard, shelter a playground. It becomes part of the design, a partner in comfort. In hot climates, deep eaves and narrow alleys create long shadows that preserve coolness. In colder regions, shadows are minimized to welcome the warmth. Shadow is not an obstacle, it is a tool. And then there are moments when shadows become art. In the hands of a sculptor or a dancer or a storyteller, the shadow is no longer secondary, it becomes the subject. Shadow puppetry, one of the oldest forms of storytelling, turns silhouettes into motion. Behind a thin curtain, figures cast by hands or cutouts dance and speak and breathe. The audience sees only the shadow, and yet the emotion is real. The shadow becomes the voice. Photographers too chase shadow as much as they chase light. A shadow can add mystery, depth, drama. It can draw the eye to a detail or hide it. A well-placed shadow in a portrait can soften a face, create a mood, evoke a memory. And in film, shadows become characters. Long silhouettes on a wall, shifting patterns across a floor, a sudden darkness stretching ahead. These are not just effects. They are feelings. There are moments when shadows startle us, when they do not match what we expect. A street lamp throws a shadow in an unfamiliar direction. A window pane bends the light, casting sharp lines where there should be none. These moments remind us that shadow is not fixed. It changes with the source, with the surface, with the shape of what it meets. It is always true to the light, and in that there is something profound. The shadow you cast changes depending on how you stand, how you move, how the world is turning. It is always with you, but never quite the same. In this way it teaches flexibility, humility. The shadow is not broken because it stretches, it is not wrong because it shifts. It is honest, always shaped by what is real. Even when you are alone, your shadow is there. It stretches beside you in morning solitude. It curls behind you in the quiet of afternoon. In the evening it leads the way home. It does not speak, but it responds to everything. It listens to light. It carries your shape without judgment. It does not need you to be perfect, only present. And there is peace in that presence. To see your shadow is to remember that you are not invisible, that you are part of the light's journey, that the world is changed, however slightly, because you are here. Whether you walk quickly or pause, whether you speak or remain silent, whether you're seen or not, your shadow marks your place. It moves because you move. It bends because you do. It exists because you do. And so the next time the sun rises behind you, or the moon casts its soft silver across the floor, or a flickering candle dances on your wall, watch your shadow. Follow it, not as a mystery, but as a friend. It is not an echo, it is a reflection, not of light, but of your presence within it. The shadow belongs to you, but it also belongs to the day, the sky, the turning earth. It is not proof of darkness, it is the shape of your light. Night falls and the world shifts again. Shadows, once sharp and active under the day's sun, now blur into the dark, yet they do not vanish. They merge, soften, become less distinct, not because they have left, but because the light that defined them has changed. The shadow is still there, even in deepest night, waiting for the next conversation with light to begin. This is the quiet truth of your shadow. It never truly disappears. It simply listens. In moonlight, shadows behave differently. They stretch farther, paler, quieter. The moon reflects the sun's light, and though it is distant and cool, it still creates shade. A tree under moonlight casts a lacy silhouette on the ground. A figure walking on a hill throws a long shadow across silver grass. The shapes are there, but less urgent. Moon shadows do not command. They whisper. They remind us that even in darkness there is form, there is light, there is a relationship still alive. When you walk at night and see your shadow in the glow of a street lamp, you may notice how it shifts as you pass each light. The angle, the clarity, the size, all change as you move. It is a dance you don't control, yet you're always leading. These shadows overlap, merge, and peel away again as if choreographed. This is not coincidence. It is the world responding to your presence, each lamp drawing your outline again and again, like a painter repeating a beloved shape. In early dawn, shadows return like quiet guests. The sun, not yet high, casts long golden forms across the dew. A shadow falls across a sleeping cat. A window frame cuts lines of shade across the wall. A teacup's curve becomes a pattern on the table. These small moments are poems written in contrast, gentle declarations that the world still turns, and that you too are part of its return to light. But there are also moments when the absence of a shadow reveals more than its presence. A cloudy day offers no hard edges. A foggy morning dissolves silhouettes. The light wraps itself around everything, leaving no room for shape. And yet you still exist within it. You still affect the world. Even when no shadow is cast, you are still there, still influencing the path of photons, still participating in the shape of the day. This teaches us something delicate, that our impact is not always visible, but always real. Your shadow may not always follow you in ways you can see, but it never stops forming. It is shaped by your body, yes, but also by the light itself. Your presence creates a change in the environment, one that will always be felt wherever light tries to pass. Even in space, astronauts have shadows. On the surface of the moon, where the sun shines without atmosphere to scatter its rays, shadows are jet black and razor sharp. An astronaut can cast a shadow that stretches forever, perfectly dark against the dusty surface. There is no soft edge, no blending, only light and not light. This stark contrast reminds us of how precious our Earth's atmospheric glow truly is, how generous it is in shaping gradients, in creating the soft middle between brightness and dark. And even farther, satellites orbiting Earth sometimes pass through its shadow, a brief eclipse, a moment of silence in the sun's continuous light. Solar panels pause, temperatures drop, then with a quiet turn the sunlight returns. This too is a dance of shadow, a reminder that even technology moves in rhythm with light, cast and shaped by the same forces that shape us. In mythology, shadows have long held meaning. They were seen as souls, as spirits, as traces of the self left behind. Some believed that stepping on another's shadow could steal their power. Others whispered that shadows carried memories, that what walked beside you remembered everything you forgot. In these stories, the shadow was not just a shape. It was a companion with weight and will, a being just out of reach. And perhaps in a way, these myths were right. Your shadow does remember. It has seen every place you've walked, every sunrise you've turned toward, every moment you paused and let the light define your form. It may not speak, but it records. Not with ink, not with numbers, but with movement, with presence, with the simple truth of being. The older we become, the more we notice how our shadows change. A child's shadow dances, small, light-footed, quick to leap. An adult's shadow steadies, longer, broader, slower to shift. And in old age, the shadow grows gentle again, a little softer, less hurried. But always, it follows. It remembers each shape we become, each posture we hold, each season we pass through. It grows with us,